welcome back. I did promise you that I would do another page in my reading journal with Hygge, I can't remember how you say it now, the new collection from Traci. So I've done a bit of prep work here. I've got some stamps already on my block ready to use. I've got my book stamps which have arrived now, so I can use them. I'm going to be using saltwater taffy distress oxide to stamp the date, and I need to grab out a couple more inks actually for some other stamping I want to do. And then I've printed out this plain peachy coloured one, which actually is exactly the same exactly the same colour as saltwater taffy, so that goes really well. These two blue ones are going to be my actual pages. I've printed out some of the 3x4 cards, or two different patterns twice of the 3x4 cards to use as backing papers. A 3x4 journal card, what you want to call it, but I've cut it down very slightly because I may or may not use that. We'll see. That's going to go on that page. And then what I've done here is I've actually worked out how I want to lay this out, and done a little bit of prepping here of how I want to lay things out, and then cut my white pieces of card to size ready to go, so I'm not fiddling about too much. Okay, so I'm going to put you on fast forward because I'm going to do talk over for the next part, and it means I can watch a film whilst I'm doing this. Okay, so on to fast forward. So the first thing I decided to get done was to stamp January. And grabbed my mouse mat with the adorable cat on it to give me a cushion below the stamps to get the better impression, and managed to get nearly all of the word January stamped in one go, and just had to redo the A in that little gap there, but I'd actually spaced it all out, so that was good, got that all done. Stamped that just onto a scrap piece of white card and popped it to one side to dry, having used the distress oxide, and grabbed the 3x4 cards to mount the white cards I'd cut at, I think it was 1.5 inches square, which I'm going to put into those boxes the number of physical e-books and audio books I listen to each month. But I mounted each one of those onto one of the pattern cards I printed out, and then I did the same with the larger squares there, which of rectangles. One which is going to have my book of the month. I'm going to do a little bit more detailed information about my favourite book, and then this one here will have a photograph on it, and I backed that on the pink paper which I'd printed out, and then I used that pink paper again to mat the January on, and I knew I wanted to do a fishtail on the pink paper, salmony pink, or saltwater taffy pink actually, as we discussed earlier in the video. So layered the word January on top of it. It was a little bit long, the piece I'd cut, so cut it down a bit, did the fishtail banner, and then you'll see I popped that on the top of the page. The blue paper I've used is like a knitted pattern. I really like that one. I think I've used it on a couple of layouts now. It's probably one of my favourite papers, which I didn't realise till I got physically started printing all the papers out, and that one's just, I keep gravitating towards that one. So I'm now prepping, I've actually prepped all these stamps, but I was just checking how it did stamp, because they're all new stamps. So I rub it with a sand eraser, rub them all with a sand eraser, and stamping onto each of those square cards the stamp that says paper, audio or ebook, and I shall tick which one that is, and then I can write down the number of those books of those sort that I have read or listened to. And then on the bottom left rectangular card, I'm stamping Book of the Month. And then you'll see I come in with another stamp which is rated, which has got the stars in, and I'll colour that in probably with a gold pen for how many stars I give that one, which is probably going to, if it's my Book of the Month, let's be honest, it's going to be 4 or 5 stars. It's not going to be a 1-star book, which I hadn't really thought about that when I stamped that, but never mind. So now I'm going to stick down the pieces, trying to get them as level as I can. My husband will tell you I cannot get things straight to save my life. Pictures in our house are always crooked. After I've done the dusting, I think they're straight, and he looks at them and comes in and goes, "You've been dusting," and puts them all straight for me. So that's about as straight as I can get them. And it left me with a little gap where I could put some embellishments. So I auditioned a few pieces. I liked the jar with the candle in, and obviously the books, but I felt they looked as if they were floating, so I cut another piece of the pinky saltwater taffy coloured paper to make like a shelf to pop the book and the books and the candle onto. And when I'd done that, I was pleased with how that looked. And then I'd got the word piece up at the top, which I think says something like "snuggled up with a good book." And I was going to put it under the word January, but I'd damaged the paper a bit underneath that shelf, so I stuck it down there, and I was quite happy with that. And then sticking it down onto the introductory page and punching the holes. So that's got that all sorted. So that's the left hand page of my January spread, and popping it into the album there. And then moving on to, there we go, moving on to the right hand page, which I want to do as bookshelves, and I want to do screen captures of the books that I read and print them out to make it look like a bookshelf. Some I might do the front cover, some I might do a spine, depending on how many I read. But on the top shelf, I wanted to use these book stamps. Stamp the first two in black, which is really good, then use the saltwater taffy ink. And in fact, it looks a lot better on screen than it does in real life. It looks a bit washed out in real life, and I was disappointed. But now looking at it on screen, I'm quite happy with that. So I popped those on there, and then cut a couple of other strips of that saltwater taffy coloured paper to make a couple of bookshelves. I may put a third bookshelf in, depending on how many books I read. As you know, I'm quite a prolific reader. I didn't have room for this card at the bottom. What I might do at the end of January, if I've got some room, is reprint it, but at a smaller size. So that's where I'm showing that I may put another shelf in. Wanted to do a bit more stamping here and do like a title for this side that says "Books Read." I was going to do it all in the solid black, and then I lost my E stamp. So I found on the stamps that I've got, you've got the outline and the solid, so I used the outline, and actually I really like how that looked. I did find the E, the solid E, when I cleared up. It had got stuck onto the back of a package. I don't know whether it's on the desk or whether it's just got lost there at this point. But anyway, I like how that looked. And so that's that page. I may also add some embellishments like the lamp that's in the collection. Anyway, I will add the book covers once I've finished January. And when I record February's, I'll show you how January's has finished looking. Thank you for watching today. Please give me a thumbs up if you've liked this video. If you don't already subscribe, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe. And I will see you again in February for this reading journal. Thank you. Bye bye.